witchcraft. However, a funny thing began to happen. We went from city to city. We finally found that the best place to be was in Milwaukee, because there we had 90 students in advance lined up who wanted to learn witchcraft. This was in the mid-'70s. And so what happened was, we settled there and we began to set up regular classes and covens. Before we knew it, though, new things began to come on the horizon. Both some of my friends who were witches, in fact, the guy who owned the occult bookstore in town, and also some of my spirit guides, because I was also a trance medium, or what today would call a channeler. I'd been ordained as a spiritualist minister and trained in that, began to tell us that if we really wanted to understand the deep parts of witchcraft, we need to get involved in Satanism. We need to read the Satanic Bible. And so I bought a copy and looked that over, and it was very, very interesting. I agreed with much of it, which would have astonished me just a few years earlier when I'd begun my occult studies. And see, this is how Satan does things. He gradually introduces you to ever more and more bizarre doctrines until all of a sudden you're overwhelmed. Well, I joined the Church of Satan, and soon after that, I ended up getting the 2nd degree in the Church of Satan, which is called Warlock. This is the certificate, excuse me, that you will see. This is also in a couple of my books. It's reproduced. You'll notice down at the bottom here, I even got Anton LaVey's autograph. Isn't that wonderful? Anyway, I want to just point out a couple of things here. Notice that it says the Church of Satan, having, passed before the Council of Nine, order the trapezoid. Now remember that. That's going to be significant later. Also, I should explain that I had legally changed my name, because Christopher Pendragon's sin was much more numerologically powerful than William Sneblin. Plus, it sounded a lot more dramatic, don't you think? I was Reverend Dr. Sin. Doesn't that sound like a character on a TV show or a soap opera or something? Anyway, so that was what was happening. So we began to work in Satanism, and I learned that Anton LaVey, and this may astonish some of you, but Anton LaVey's brand of Satanism is like kid stuff. It's entry-level Satanism, so to speak, because it's used primarily to draw people into the darker stuff. And it's very evil, don't get me wrong. I mean, it's not like it's a Sunday school picnic or anything, but compared to the real serious Satanism, it's totally, totally harmless, relatively speaking. In order to get into that, though, there was something very important I had to do. I had to become a Freemason, because you can't get involved in Satanism on the hardcore level without first being a Freemason. And so I found someone, I was sponsored into the Masons, and I became a 1st, 2nd, 3rd degree Mason. I went through the York Rite. I went through the Shrine. In fact, this is my little shrine portrait here. As you can see, by this time, I'd kind of shed some of my hippie appearance. I just shudder every time I see that thing. But this is just kind of by way of documentation that I really was involved in these things. That was my official shrine portrait, which they took as part of my initiation. Then soon after that, I went through the Scottish Rite as well, so I basically covered all the branches of Masonry that there are to do. And then I went even beyond that. But this is my certificate as a sublime prince of the royal secret. That's the title, 32nd degree Mason. See, Masons love big sounding titles. I mean, they just think that's the greatest thing. They have titles like perfect master, most perfect master, perfect excellent master. Like these people have a self-esteem problem, right? Anyway, there's a couple things I just want you to notice about this, and I'll come back to it later. You'll notice the all-seeing eye up there, and you'll notice the motto, Ordo Ab Chao. And we'll talk more about those later. So once I went through all of that, I was worthy. I was ready to become involved in hardcore Satanism. What did that mean? Well, that meant I had to sell my soul to the devil. I didn't know that the devil already had it. Amen? This is a little ceremony that the devil likes to do, and I had to sign my name on the contract in blood. I had to sign my name in the black book. The deal was that I got 7 years in which the devil would give me anything I wanted. He'd given me wine, women, song, dope, power, you name it, I'd have it. Then at the end of those 7 years, he got to kill me and take me to hell. What a deal. Anybody want to sign up? Yeah, you see, you got to understand something. The satanic doctrine here is that hell is not what we believe it is, or what the Bible teaches it is. The satanic doctrine is that hell is this incredible party. It's like a nonstop, all-eternity orgy. So you're smoking dope, you're fornicating your brains out, you're listening to rock and roll through all eternity. And it's party-hardy time, whereas we were told that heaven was a place where losers that couldn't stand the dark, violent ecstasies of hell would just sit up there and strum on a dang harp for all eternity and just be bored, silly. So, bad scene. We thought hell was better. So this was how deceived I became. I went out and I got more and more involved in these various things. I signed up more people to sell their souls to the devil. I'm ashamed to say that now. But continually this was happening. And essentially, the next thing that happened, before I could get onto the priesthood of Satanism, excuse me, I had to get 7 people to sell their souls to the devil. The other thing I had to do, and this might astonish some of you, is I had to become a Catholic priest. I had to go back to my original vocation, because you cannot be a satanic priest unless, first of all, you're a Catholic priest. And if that surprises you, I just suggest that you go and you read some of the medieval literature. You'll see that that is in fact the case. Okay, so fortunately, or maybe unfortunately, I had discovered a bishop of the old Catholic Church in the city of Milwaukee who was more than willing to ordain me as a priest in exchange for me making him a witch priest. It was sort of a quid pro quo thing, kind of like what's going on at the White House these days. Except I never got to sleep in the Lincoln bedroom. But anyhow, what happened is I got consecrated a Catholic priest, and then later on I got involved with the patriarch of the Gnostic Catholic Church down in Chicago, and this is my certificate, being ordained, consecrated as a bishop in the Gnostic Catholic Church. And you'll notice a couple of other things that might be important here. One is that you'll notice that this is the ancient and primitive rite of Memphis and Mizraim. Now, this is in French, and I apologize for that. The certificate is in my book, Lucifer Dethroned, if you want to see it and try and translate it. Now, the rite of Memphis and Mizraim is the rite of Masonry that a lot of Masons aren't aware even exists. And this rite has 97 degrees. And I was raised to the 90th degree within that. If you'll notice down here, it says I was given the title of Grand Master of the Order of the Temple. That's 90th degree. And at the same time, I was made the Auxiliary Bishop of Milwaukee of the Gnostic Catholic Church. So I was just all set, man. I was loaded for bear. I mean, I had all of these powerful initiations, and I understood all these powerful experiences. And this basically took me over what is called the abyss. Now, that's an occult term, and I don't have time to explain entirely what it means, except once you get over the abyss in occult progress, in ceremonial magic, you transcend good and evil. You become beyond such mundane considerations as good and evil. You're beyond morality, and you become essentially a god living on the earth, walking, and you basically look at human beings as if they were cattle. And so at this point, I made a choice. I was asked to make a choice, because to move through what is called 8th degree within this particular system, I had to choose to either study lycanthropy or else vampirism. Now, lycanthropy is a fancy word for werewolves. It's learning how to be a werewolf. Now, I knew a couple of werewolves, and I learned from them that, in fact, it's rather a painful process. And I'm not really into pain, you know, so I decided I'd rather inflict pain than receive it. So instead, I went the route of vampirism. So I was taken down and introduced to in a church down in Chicago, which was wholly given over to this vampiric cult. And I was made to drink the blood of what I now believe to be a fallen angel, and he in turn drank my blood. And by doing that, something happened to my blood, and I was actually physiologically transformed in many subtle ways. My blood type changed. It became impossible for me to eat. I couldn't eat anything. I couldn't drink anything except blood. The only solid food I consumed was the Catholic communion host.